Welcome back, everybody. As the Shem Yisbarach should be a gesunte Zimmer, a summer of Yeshuas and Brachas and Simchas for everyone. I would be remiss before I begin not to acknowledge the fact that we're in a shtickl matzif over here where the Olam is a shtickl reeling as we are mispal for Yosef ben Itachaya, who over the years has been and will be Bez Hashem Yisbarach one of the main pillars of the Shir, besides some of the Chashav Rabbeim. It's a person that doesn't donate time for the Rabbim, he donates time for himself. And our hearts are kind of frozen in our tracks, and our hergeshim, and every fiber cries out for Yeshua. And we hope that the schus of this Shir and the people that are listening should shine forth. The schus of his Heilig Zayder, Rabbi Yaakov, should shine forth. And the other schus of us to hear Yeshua's and Simchas and Nachas. Kedai, if the Olam again can be mispal for Yosef ben Itachaya, and perhaps everyone should be makabel something in their own lives, something that is everyone knows where they can move a notch in the right direction. Being makabel something, I once heard that from Adam Gadol. We try to think a major Kabbalah. I'm going to do Gilgal Sheleg. I'm going to wake up for 40 days and break the ice and have 1,000 people by Chnas Sarchim. Being makabel something is a little notch moving in the right direction. So traditionally, we say a guten Zimmer. Our bracha to people is to have a good summer. And some people even say, during the days of Sfira, a guten Mayid. A guten Mayid is this Chol Hamoed. You mean, Astroland, we're back? What does this mean? For 7 weeks? What does it mean, a guten Mayid? Reb Tzadok HaKayan asks, why is it that we have such an unceremonial name for the last day of Pesach? What do we call the last day of Pesach? Achrin Shal Pesach. Couldn't they come up with something more original? Like, there's Shmini Atzeres, there's Simchas Torah. Couldn't it be Simchas Pesach? Okay, so you're going to tell me, well, technically speaking, Shmini Atzeres is Regel B'fnei Atzvai. Shmini Atzeres is an independent Yom Tov, which is why we make a Shechianu. And the last days of Pesach are connected to the first days of Pesach. They are not an independent Yom Tov, which is why we do not make a Shechianu. But still, come on. We couldn't give the last day of Pesach up as a name, Happy Brocking Day or something for those that brock only Yachad Shel Pesach of Kneidlach, or maybe in respect to those we Kneidlach the entire Pesach. But just to call it the last day of Pesach, it's like boring. Really, there's a Chazal that says that the MS Shmini Atzeres ought to have been 7 weeks after Sukkot. Okay, but that would have meant everyone would have to come back and be Oile Ragol in the middle of the winter, and that would have been dangerous and extremely difficult. So therefore, Hashem made Shmini Atzeres right after Chol Hamoed, as opposed to Shavuos, which is indeed 7 weeks after Pesach. According to that, so really the days of Sfira have, to a certain degree, the Kedusha of Chol Hamoed. Sorry, we do have yeshiva tomorrow. However, there are, for example, there are people that are noeg not to do malacha, not to do work during the actual counting of the Sfira. During the time period of the counting of the Sfira. Some say that's because of Avelus, but some say that has, some say you shouldn't forget to count Sfira, and some say it has to do if there is actually, to some level, a Kedusha of Chol Hamoed during these days. But here's the question, okay? So if really Shmini Atzeres ought to have been 7 weeks after Pesach, after Sukkot, the way Shavuos is 7 weeks after Pesach. So what's the problem? It's too cold. So Hashem could just make it warm. It's like we're talking about the Rabbi Shalom giving us the Yom Tovim. What's the problem? He controls the weather. So I heard of art once that just the opposite. The nature of the winter is you can get it in one shot. In one shot you can generate this level of Kedusha over Yom Tov, and it warms us for the winter. The Nesiyainais, the tests that we face in the summer, are very different. There has to be a 7-week build-up in order for us to be able to absorb enough. During Shavuos, there has to be this whole time period for us to be able to endure the summer. That's how great the tests of the summer are. That's in a simple shot. The Square Rebbe Zecher Tzadik Levracha once said that winter in New York is an asayan. He says the summer is not even an asayan. You lost before you started. The summer is tough. In another sense, why do we need a 7-week Chol Hamoed between Sukkot, between Pesach and Shavuos, as opposed to just the regular Chol Hamoed between Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres? Because everyone that's in the contracting business or building business knows, or that's what I heard, that it's a lot easier to build a brand new building than it is to reconstruct a building that's in trouble. A building that's sinking. Retain the exterior of the building and rebuild it from the inside. That is a much tougher assignment than to build something to start with. Fundraisers will tell you it's easier to raise funds for a big building more so than it is to rebuild an existing building. Even though rebuilding an existing building could be cheaper, but it's easier to build a new building. Because you come to someone and say, I'm rebuilding a building where people are going to sit and learn Torah. That's great. So maybe we can put your father's name on a new pipe. No. Building a brand new building, he's going to be on the front door. Then it's easier to get someone. Many yeshivas have building funds. Shuls have building funds. They don't want to stop building, because the day they stop building, that's the end of the building fund. I remember I used to daven in a certain shul, and there was a very beautiful mikveh, but there were no hooks to hang up your hats or something. I kept saying, where are the hooks? Okay, they finally got the hooks, and one hook was missing. So couldn't you put this one last hook here? No. I say, I'm not giving up my building fund. You know what I mean? That last hook is going to stay off. So really what it is, what these 7 weeks are, is a rebuilding of ourselves. Rosh Hashanah is a new year. The Kadosh Baruch Hu creates a new year for people. So a new year is easier to build. Whatever happened to us during the winter, there's a reconstruction process that is going through for us during the days of Sefira, so we should be ready for Shavuos. That is a much more difficult project than the project, and that's why it takes 7 weeks. To share a story which we've said many times, I think it's been a while. Somebody once came to Rabbi Yoshev, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, and this was his shaila. He was an old man, and the doctors gave him 2 weeks to live. And he asked if he could start counting Sefira. Here was the question. We know that if somebody misses a day, a complete day of Sefira Soimer, so he can no longer count with a bracha. That's a concern for the Rishonim that hold that it's all one long mitzvah. So we continue to count, but without a bracha. You ask someone to be mitzi you with the bracha. So that's if a person misses a day. What did Meir Shapiro say when he first came to America? He said he met someone who was, he said, how do you know which day of the Omer it is? You don't go to shul to daven. You only go on Shabbos. He says that the first night he eats 1 knish, the second night he eats 2 knishes, the third night, till he gets to 49 knishes. He says, what if you miss a day? He says, if he misses a day, he eats the rest of the knishes without a bracha, he says. That's how he described Yiddishkeit in America at that time. So this person came to Rebbe Yoshev, and this was his shaila, this was his question. His question was, the doctors gave him 2 weeks to live, so he knows he's not going to finish the Omer. Is he allowed to count? Is he allowed to start counting if he knows that he's not going to finish? He only has 2 weeks. So he told him a story. There once was a little boy who wanted a candy. Father said no. He wanted the candy. Father said no. Smart kid. So he yelled out, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvarei. So the father had no choice but to give him a candy. I don't know what else he gave him besides the candy, but he gave him the candy. So he told him, he said, Zaitz nish kana. He said, Ir mach de bracha. He said, don't be a fool. You make the bracha. You make the bracha. It's the Rabbi Shalom will be. It's Rabbi Shalom's problem. It shouldn't be a bracha of atal. So he says the Yid lived through next year Sefira Soimer. Not only this whole Sefira Soimer, but that takes a lot of courage to be able to make a bracha when the prognosis is down. The courage to go on there and make the bracha and keep on going is not difficult. So we know that the 7 weeks, as you see in many Sidurim, correspond. We know that the 7 weeks correspond to the 7 midos of how Kadosh Baruch Hu reveals Himself to us, and it reflects the full parameter of our nisyonos. Chesed, Gvura, Tferes, Netzach, Chayid, Yisoid, Malchus. Chesed is the mid of Chesed, it's Avraham Avinu. Then there's Gvura, the battle against the Yetzer Hara, Zeo Gibor, HaKoyvish Yitzroi, that corresponds to Yitzchak. Teferes, that's Yaakov. Teferes means beauty, that's harmony. That's the proper combination of Chesed and Gvura. Netzach is Moshe Rabbeinu, that's the Netzach and the Koyach of Torah. Hoid is Aaron, Yisoid is Yosef Atzadik, and David HaMelech corresponds to Malchus. So the first week is the week of Chesed. The first night of Pesach is Chesed Sheba Chesed, because we were taken out of Mitzrayim. We were not in our own merit. Hashem gave it to us totally on credit. And the next night is Gvura Sheba Chesed, and now we are in the week of Gevura. So as tonight is the second night in the week of Gevura, so tonight is Gevura Sheba Gevura. And what happens is, so I remember in class a kid asked, so why isn't there just 1 week for Chesed, 1 week for Gevura? What's the Chesed Sheba Gevura? Why does each one have an interlocking day that it connects? So another kid explained it very well. He said the Navy has planes and boats and special forces, but the main thing is boats. And the Air Force has planes and boats and special forces, and the main thing is the planes. And the Army has tanks and whatever. In other words, each division in the Army also has its subdivisions, and there is overlapping. That's the way systems work. So in other words, there's Chesed, but in Chesed there's Gvura. There's, father has to be tough to kids sometimes. So as the Chayvus Hababa says, the real war is the war with the Yetzer Hara. So we have a training period. This is a 7-week training period. And in the 7-week training period, in the course of these 7 weeks, we will face nisyonos, we will face tests that represent our application of not only Gvura, but the Chesed and Gvura, the Tferes and Gvura. And of course tonight represents the night which is the toughest fight with the Yetzer Hara, because it's Gvura Sheba Gvura, Zeo Gibor, HaKoyvish Es Yitzroi. Try to explain this. If you ever get your credit card bills, which I get plenty, so for whatever reason they come with offers, right? In other words, in case there's a half a minute that you paid up your bill, we'll get you again. Now, it's very interesting. You ever notice the products that are offered in credit card bills? They're not normal products. They're always just like, I noticed one today. Just the thing I always wanted. I don't know why I never asked for an Afikoyim present for this. A solar-powered yard animal repeller that sends away deers and squirrels and raccoons. And there's this picture of it, and you'll feel like, how could anyone live without a solar-powered yard animal repeller, So I was wondering, how come the corner hardware store doesn't have a solar-powered animal repeller? Why does it only come in a credit card thing? You know what they should really have in credit card envelopes? They should have a solar-powered credit card repeller, so that you don't go into chayvos for spending money that you don't have, right? For whatever reason, atomic clocks. They're always offering atomic clocks. I never understood, why does anyone need an atomic clock? You know what I mean? Where's a North Korean company? What's the atomic clocks? I'm scared of atomic clocks. It keeps, you don't understand, it keeps time to the trillionth of a second. I said, I don't have to be on time to the trillionth of the second. I don't know, atomic clocks make me nervous. You press the wrong button. Oh my goodness, what happened to this country? Good old Casio watches are good enough for me. Then sometimes you have in some of these credit card things, in one thing, you have an automatic iron, alarm clock, haircut machine, and lint brush in one machine. You know what I mean? Also solar powered, right? Or atomic, I'll tell you one thing. If you ever have one machine that's both an iron, an alarm clock, a haircut machine, a lint brush, make sure you press the right button, because a haircut on your jacket is almost as bad as a lint brush on your head. You know what I mean? Press the wrong button, and then forget it. You don't need the atomic clock to blow up the world. Now, so why is it? How come your local hardware store doesn't have a solar-powered animal repeller? How come it only comes in credit card things? So I once read that there is a study that actually suggests that there's a tremendous chachma in marketing. That people that are paying credit cards are in a certain mode. They're in a mode of, they have this dream that one day they're going to make a lot of money and pay up their credit card bills. So they get a high when they see these rare things. Oh, why anyone ever think of this, a solar-powered animal repeller? If I could only create something like that, that would be amazing. I'd be able to pay up all my bills. there is a certain connection over here, and there's a certain lumdis in the marketing, that somehow there's an easy way out. Somehow there's an outside solution, outside of the norm, that's going to end all my problems. And all it does is, at the end of the month, you not only have your grocery bill, gas bill, and everything else on your credit card, you also have the bill for a solar-powered animal repeller, which you do not need because you live on the 10th floor of an apartment house. You know what I mean? But you were convinced to buy it. Rav Scheinberg, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, used to say like this. He used to say that the Kaisel Hamaravi is so Kodesh, is so holy. But your Stender is Kodesh Kedosh. Now what did he mean to say? Why is my Stender Kodesh Kedosh? You go to the Kaisel, that's an amazing thing. But to deal with the everyday life, getting to davening in the morning on time and davening like a mensch, that's a greater koyach of Yeshua's in a certain sense that you're real. You're not looking for outside. If only I was there. If only I was by the Kaisel, then I could be with Spal. You could be with Spal right here. It's your day-to-day stender. Your life is not going to be judged by what you did by the Kaisel on your one birthright trip to Eretz Yisrael. Your life is going to be judged what you did by your stender. Somebody once came to the Satmar Rebbe, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, and he said to him, he is having difficulties with a shidduch for his daughter, it's not going. So they were discussing why he was having difficulties. And at one point he said to the Rebbe, well, it says, Kasha Zivuga Shaladim Kriyas Yamsef. So of course it's difficult. It's like Kriyas Yamsef. So the Rebbe said, yeah, you know why? Because you're looking for Bizas Hayam. Do you understand that? Because you're not looking for a shidduch. You're looking for the spoils that the Bnei Yisrael got from the Egyptians by the Yamsef. If you would be looking for a shidduch, you wouldn't have such a problem. That's why it's Kasha Zivuga Shaladim Kriyas Yamsef. So they say from the Rebbe that there are three things that people look for, but they really don't want to find. One is worms on the Roman lettuce. The other is chametz on Pesach, and the other is a good shidduch. Really? We're not looking for good shidduchim? And suppose I came over to someone and says, I want for my daughter's mom. She has tremendous hashkafas. She needs a Talmud Chacham, a Bardas. And suppose I went over and I said to this person, we have a great boy. I have a great boy for you. Really? Mamash, a masmid. A erlich, a bacher, davens erlich, midais, gewaldig. Except that his father works in the sewer, and his mother cleans up after lunch in the yeshiva. Oh, no. What's the problem? That's not for me. What's not for you? I thought you're looking for a great boy for your daughter. Yeah, but you're not really looking for a great boy for your daughter. You're looking for your own covet. And the Beis Halevi really said the same thing. The Beis Halevi once said that a person is willing to give $50,000 to marry his daughter into the son of a Talmud Chacham, but he won't give a kopek for a Talmud Chacham. In other words, if you have the right person, but it doesn't stim covet-wise, I shouldn't say no one, but there are very few people that have the insight to really look at through. What do they say? There's a story I heard from my good friend Yanis Schwartz, Lausanne Gesund. The Schachter goes over to someone and says, I have a shidduch for you. What's the problem? Shishtikl midget. No, it's not for me. I'm like 6'2". Her father had $100 million, and she's the heir to that wealth. Really? How short is she? Oh, she is 3 foot tall? Okay, no. Okay, maybe. 100 million, you're saying. Right. By the way, there's one more thing I want to tell you. Yeah. For whatever reason, her two molars come out like this. They go round and round and round like a... Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, it's not for me. 100 million. 100 million? Really? Yeah. No. Money's written over in her name. Oh. Okay. It's good. It's a good thing, You walk in a dangerous neighborhood on the street, it's a good thing to... By the way, one more thing. She's not so 100%, sometimes she is. She's not like Vimazuk. She's not all there, Oh, well, that's 100 million. 100 million? Okay. By the way, one more thing. Yeah. She has a terrible limp, okay? But 100 million. Okay, fine. Anyway, turns out that she has the teeth, she has those limps, she is as short, she's talking not 100% there, but anechte getug, there's not a penny to her name. He runs to the Schachter and he says, you're a liar! He says, I'm a liar? I told you 20 things. I only lied about one of them. 19 were true. Why am I a liar? In life, It's not the Schachter that fools us or the used car salesman that fools us. We fool ourselves. We fool ourselves because we're not willing to be realistic in terms of what we are looking for. So here's the kasha. You want to tell me that during the days of Sfira, I'm going to go through different nisyonos. I'm going to go through different tests. And all those tests will fall into a different area of different categories. It'll fall into Gvura, Nisyonos of Gvura, Nisyonos of Chesed. But don't tell me that tonight is Gvura Shabbat. The ultimate fight with the Yetzer Hara is tonight. Because tonight I'm going through no, in my life it's Chesed, in my life it's Tveres. How can you dictate to me and everybody at the same time is going through the same Nisayon? We're all going through different Nisyonos. That's exactly the point. Did you ever wonder when you're driving on the BQE or one of the other city's major parking lots, and there's this big sign that comes on, lights, delays ahead. Shkaya. So I think that the city would save a lot of money if they take off that electric sign. They need someone by a computer that types in the words delays ahead, next 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, delays ahead, next 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, delays ahead, next 15 minutes, right? No, better yet. Delays till exit 1. Next. Delays till exit 2. Delays till exit 3. You know what I mean? They have a bunch of people sitting by computers with satellites that are figuring this all out and typing it in. You have this big electric bill. Just take one of those, regular blech, iron aluminum signs that says like no parking. Delays ahead. Period. Bang it on every light pole. And you know how much money you're going to save on the electric bill? And you won't be misinforming anybody. So what is the point of a sign that says delays ahead? You know it's there. But the answer is we like to think that life is just going, that there are no delays ahead, that life is going to move on. If you know that part of life is delays ahead, and part of life is there are going to be nisyonos. There are going to be nisyonos when you have to perform chesed and you're not in the mood of performing chesed. There are going to be nisyonos and you have to perform gevura and you're not in the mood of gevura, and there's a night of gevura sheba gevura. And that's what you have to deal with. You have to deal with not what you would like to deal with. You have to deal with what is coming your way. The famous story. There was in Vilna, there was a bacher. They referred to him as the Grabitzer. That's what he was called, the Grabitzer. He came from Grabitz. They used to refer to people by their town. And he was a Tamimistic bacher. He sat and learned from morning until night. And he really wanted no covet. He just learned Torah Lishma. Came to a shidduch, he didn't need money, he didn't need nothing. So when a rich man once came to the Vilna Gaon and said, looking for a shidduch for my daughter, he said, take this bacher, Mendel HaKayim, that was his name. Him, you want a real Talmud Chacham, or you want a flowery thing? No, you want a real Talmud Chacham. So you want a real Talmud Chacham, take him. So he didn't want to get married. He didn't need money. So the Gra said, no, take the shidduch. So he went, he sat and learned, and no one really gave him much. He didn't push for much covet, he pushed it away. He sat and learned Torah Lishma for many, many years. After a while, the father-in-law passed away, and the Grabitz, as he was called, this Mendel had to take over his father's business. So he hired some managers. And you know what it says in Chazal about hiring a manager and not being there with them? They were selling him this books and this sale and that sale, and we're refinancing and refinancing the refinance. At the end, they told him he's bankrupt because they took all of his money. However, they did offer him that if he ever becomes rich again, they'll be more than happy once again to be his manager. So here he has no parnasa, mamash, he has nothing. So the town was looking for a bathhouse attendant. So he wanted to be, he applied for the job. They said, every archi-parchi on the street wants the job to be the bathhouse attendant. Why should you be the bathhouse attendant? So he ran back to the Vilna Gaon. He said, can you give me a letter that I would be a trustworthy bathhouse attendant? So the Gra gave him a letter. He sealed it. And he told him, you take this and just give it over to the people in your town. But don't open it beforehand. So he was scared. Why did they tell him not to open it beforehand? Maybe the Gra is going to say, probably be a good bathhouse attendant, but no way he'll know how to fold the towels or something. He was like, should I open it, should I not? Okay, listen, he gave it. The guy opens up the letter, and it says over there that you are not to take this person as a bathhouse attendant. And he goes, you know what it says over here? The Vilna Gaon says, you should not we should not take you as a bathhouse attendant. He goes, why not? I said, I can do it. I can mop the floors. I can square. I can change the water. I can. It says, and the guy almost falls off his chair. It says we should take you as Rav. We should take you as Rav of the town. And I don't know if the Grabitzer fainted, or the guy that was reading the letter fainted, or the whole town fainted, but it was a genuine letter of the Vilna Gaon, that the Vilna Gaon said is authentic, and he became the Rav of the town. Which was very much not to the pleasure of the son-in-law of the previous Rav, who was already expecting that he would be the normal heir to the throne. And the son-in-law of the previous Rav was very, very upset. And as a result, he did everything within his power to unseat the Grabitz's Rav. And what he would do is, he did the old Avshalom trick. By Din Torah, he would come out, he would say, oh, you lost the Din Torah, huh? I could have told you. He doesn't like people with red hair, forget it, I go, oh, you lost the Din Torah, huh? Oh, I could have told you. No. He hates Litvaks. But everybody in this town is Litvak. Trust me, you're more of a Litvak than they are, and that's why he hates you. If I would have been the Rav, you would have never lost. But it wasn't working, because the Grabitzer was so good at this, at making psharas and making everyone understand it, that it wasn't happening. But, when you keep hammering away, so every time he said a chicken was treif, he would go, hey, he said it's treif, because he doesn't like you. But he gave me another chicken instead. So once there was a Din Torah, where one was an interesting Din Torah, it was about a bunch of bottles of honey, where two people came, and one of them said that my father was an old man, he was traveling, he was a honey salesman, and he stayed in the inn, and he wasn't well, and that this is what he claimed, and the innkeeper took over the honey from him. He had to go back, doctors took him home on a bed, and the innkeeper said, I'll sell the honey for you at a 10% commission. And the father eventually passed away, and the innkeeper passed away. Now the children of the honey, the person who owned the honey said, give us back our honey. And the children of the innkeeper said, what do you mean? This is our honey. Our father never told us anything. We opened this basement, there's honey there. Who says it's yours? And they're fighting gefährlich. And the Rav calms them down. And the Rav says, listen, bottom line is that the halach is very simple. That these guys have the honey. You don't have any shtar, you have no edim, you have no witnesses, you have no nothing. So unless you can prove that they have to relinquish the honey to you, they don't have to. So he was not a very happy camper. And when he came out, and he met the automatic Rav challenger, that guy whipped up a storm, and there was gefährlich, and some of the people in town started to the Rav took a bribe, the Rav took this, honey is very sweet, who knows what you put into the honey. So at the end, they wound up going back to the Vilna Gaon. And the Vilna Gaon said that, we don't paskin on the basis of Ruach HaKodesh. He says, what was the basis of your psak? And the Grabitzer said, he's a muchzik, the other person never shtar. So he said, the halacha is the halacha, nothing changes it. And Agav, the Vilna Gaon told him, he said, I want to tell you that in a previous Gilgal, sometimes Vilna Gaon stories and Baal Shem Tov stories get very confusing. They sound very similar to each other. But I don't know if the Ma'aseh Bichlach, or maybe the really, in certain ways, wasn't that much of a difference. Everyone always says, when is the Baal Shem Tov's yard site? On Shavuos, right? The Yom Tov of Torah. When is the Vilna Gaon's yard site? On Sukkot, the Yom Tov of Simcha. Shouldn't have been the other way around? So Elamai may be like saying a Shemayim that there was no lack of Torah here and there was no lack of Simcha there. Maybe that's like the message. In any event, he said there were two people in the previous Gilgal, and one business partner stole from the other business partner, and he died, and he was terrible sorrows and Shemayim, and they were both asking to come down to this world, that somehow he should be able to return it. And that's how he returned the honey. So the Gra said that's not the basis of the psak. The basis of the psak was he's a muchzik and matzi mechavei all over right. But if you want to know what happened, that's what happened. Now, why this it's a great story, because if the Grabitzer would have come to the Gra to start with, and the Gra would have said, take him for a son-in-law and make him Rav, that would have been a very simple thing, and you could have never made a play out of that. So why does he have to go through the whole bathhouse attendant thing? So the Elamai, what the Gra is really teaching us in this story, and of course the story is a story, but there are certain people that the way you're going to become a Rav in your life is by willing to become a bathhouse attendant. In other words, if you're willing to accept the stender for what it is, whatever the Rebbe Hashem throws my way, that's what I'm willing to deal with. If tonight's the week of Gvura, it's Gvura. If it's Chesed, it's Chesed. That is how you are Nis'ala. That is how you get to where you're going to be. Otherwise, you don't get there. So if you don't like the delays ahead, then you will never become who you are supposed to come, which is really one of the problems. I heard this from Shmuel the Shonzel, Zayin Gesund and Stark. He says a story that when he got married, they didn't have a washing machine. Today it's a given, right? Every chassan kala gets a washing machine. That's like the least of the things you get. He said, you know, schlepping the laundry back and forth. So he said that they were trying to get approval from Macy's to buy a washing machine. They should pay it out at $20 a month. And when it came that they were approved for the credit, he says there was such a joy in the house. It was such a lechtig Shabbos. He says, who today is going to have that simcha? That's one of my children. When we got married, the apartment was not ready. And it was like, 1 week, got a sink, Baruch Hashem. Next week we're getting our table, it was like, so, there's a certain appreciation that you have, that you don't have. One day when he gets his bathroom, he's really going to be happy, but I'm telling you. But we expect in life that things are going our way, and we expect that we have it all planned out, and we don't. So, the misa, the passing of Nadav and Avihu, a very interesting medrash that the Medrash Tanchuma, the Rabbeinu Chananel brings. It quotes the pasuk, "Amarti lahoilim al tahoilus." Say to those that are engaged in hoilus, "Hey, the world is mine. Al tahoilu, don't be so happy. Lahoilim al tahoilu." Those that are dancing, don't dance so much. And the medrash goes on to say, "Loi kol misha sameach hayom." Not everyone who's happy today, sameach l'macha, is going to be happy tomorrow. Not everyone who's worried today, meitzer l'mach, is going to be worried tomorrow. And the Medrash goes on to give practical examples of this. For example, it starts with Kaviyachal the Bari Olam, Zayштeit. The Eibishter was so happy when he created the world. And then Hashem said it wasn't worth it. And then the Medrash goes on to say, Avraham Avinu was so happy, he killed all the kings, he won the war, and he was zeichet to such greatness, and he had a son in his old age. And then came the Akedah, and then came Misa Sora, and buying it for $1 Meis shekel. And Yitzchak was so happy, he was saved from the people of Gerar, and then came Batechena Einav, he lost his sight, Rachman al-Itzlan. And Yaakov was so happy when he saw the ladder, and he was told that Klal Yisrael is going to endure and survive Galus. And Vayisa Yaakov, his Raglav, his feet were so happy because he was so physically able to run. And all of a sudden it's Esav and Yosef and Dinah and Lavan and Yeshua was so happy. Yeshua killed the 31 kings, and then all of a sudden he dies without children. He didn't have sons, or they weren't tzaddikim. And Eli HaKoyin was so happy. He was Koyin Gadol, he was Av Bezdin. And then the Aron is taken, his two sons Chafni and Pinchas. And finally the Medrash goes on to say, Elisheva bas Aminadav. Elisheva. Can anyone be happier than her? Can anyone have more kavod than her? Her husband is the Koyin Gadol. Her brother-in-law is the king and the Navi. Her sons are the Skan Kohanim Gedolim. Her brother is Nachshon and Aminadav, the Nasi of Shevet Yehuda. Can you be better connected than that? Right? And here's the Mishkan, the ultimate glory, and she loses her two sons. Now, if you look at the Medrash, and maybe I'm wrong, but I tried to find different nischayos in the Medrash. The Medrash started out telling me two things. That whoever's happy doesn't mean you're happy tomorrow. And if you're worried, it doesn't mean you're worried tomorrow. And the Medrash goes on to give us all sorts of examples to show how people were happy, but they weren't happy tomorrow. What about the other side of the coin? The people that were worried and weren't worried tomorrow. And second of all, how does the Medrash start out? How do we understand this? Of course, it's Agadita, we don't understand it, but just the Pashib Shat, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was so happy with the world and HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't like the idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew very well what he was creating. And the answer is that the Rebbeinu Shem created this kind of a world. I want you to realize what this world is all about. It's a world of ups and downs. It's a world where today the traffic is moving, and expect delays. This world was never intended for everything to go your way. And the Medrash says in this week's Parasha again and again, you'll people say, by a simcha, why have I had a wedding? Why did I always have to have one in-law that's angry or one aunt that's upset because we didn't put her cake in the biggest pile in front of everyone else? Why is it always an Agmas Nefesh by a simcha? Because that is the nature of this world. There is no perfect happiness. But if you understand that there is no perfect happiness, then there's also no endless worry. In other words, the two are linked to each other. Just like the Rebbeinu Shalom created such a world that sometimes to become a Rav, you have to be willing to be a bathhouse attendant beforehand. That's the world. Not that the Kadosh Baruch Hu changed his mind. It's not Shayach that Kaviyachal changes his mind, but the Kadosh Baruch Hu created that world. A world of confusion, a world of difficulty, a world of you want me to do chesed and I mess up with the chesed. And then you want me to do gvura and I'm supposed to do chesed. Which one is it? It's a confusing world. But who said that it was simple? Who says that it's not trial and error? Who says that we don't have to get up in the morning and try to go on with life? Who says there aren't things that happen in the course of our lives that we hear that shake us to the very core of our foundation and we wonder how is life going to go on? Yet we have to continue to make the bracha. Avram knew that. He knew that when things were going his way, and that's why he was ready for the Akedah. Yitzchak knew that when things were going his way, therefore he was ready for those last moments of his life to give those brachos. Yaakov knew that when he had the dream of the ladder, and therefore he was able to endure the tzaras of Esav, Yosef, Dinah, and Lavan. Yeshua knew that, and therefore he was able to take on his Nisyainais. What the Medrash is saying is not that these tzaddikim had simcha and then they lost it. No, these tzaddikim had simcha and they knew simcha was never intended to last forever. They understood delays ahead, and therefore they were able to deal with it. And Memela, when those delays came and it was the time of worry, it wasn't worry that lasted forever. I know we've said this story many times, but I just the events of what's going on now, and I just allow me to share it with you one more time. I think it's been a shtickle while. When I was in yeshiva, there was a chassan. There were a bunch of chassanim, and all of a sudden, I wasn't a chassan yet, and it was like a strange thing. There was one chassan that the kala dropped the shidduch right before the shidduch. Another one went to the doctor for a routine exam. The doctor found something, Rahman al-Islan, and there was another shidduch that fell apart, and there was one surviving chassan. We'll call him Shloimi. And he was my chavrusa. And Shloimi was going out of his mind. He was absolutely sure that he's the next one to be chopped off. Echad bin achabura yidagu kol achabura. I said, Shloimi, don't worry about it. What do you mean don't worry about it? Who are you? What do you mean, who I am? What's that supposed to mean? So, I said, Shloimi, what exactly are you worried about? He said he was getting married in Connecticut. He said he's worried that what if he's not well? What if listen, most people go to the doctor, they come out well. Depends which doctor, okay, but most what if on the way, and also he goes like, what if there'll be a storm? What if there'll be a nuclear attack? What if I said, oh, the Shloimi's losing it. I said, what if on the way to Connecticut we're going to have a flat? What? We'll drive behind you with spare tires. What if your car gets flat? We'll take a whole tractor trailer of tires. Menachem, you'll lend us one of your trucks and we'll pile it up with... I said, okay, Shloimi needs help. So there was a fellow in yeshiva, he's a shtickle therapist, then he was a shtickle therapist. And he sat down, he says, let me talk to Shloimi. I was privy to sit into this. So he takes a paper and he folds it up. He goes to the Shloimi, I want you to write it out. You've got to express your concerns. What are you worried about? He says, I'm embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. He says, Osked will have a flat. Okay. One side of the paper, what are the chances of having a flat on a particular drive? Right? 1%? Less. 0.5%? You only get flats either Erev Shabbos before the Zman or when you're late for a meeting. Everyone knows that. Okay? So let's say 1%. 99% no flat. What are you scared of? A storm? 1% storm. 99% no storm. Scared of a nuclear attack on the day of your wedding? 1%. 99% not. That all the way through. Okay? But take this home. Whenever you have a worry, look at the paper and you'll see. So he takes it home and he says, and add more to it. And he added a whole bunch of things to it. What if this happens? What if that happens? And what if the economy crashes and the stock market crashes? What if there are riots? What if there this? What if that? What if the Kala drops the shidduch? I wanted to say if the Kala sees this list, she may have good reason to drop the shidduch. So what did Shloimi do? So he adds up 1% flat tire, 1% the storm, 1% this, 1% that. When he finishes his whole tally, it's like a 350% chance that he is not going to get married on time. So I can't believe I'm saying this story again, but we got to hear it. We got to hear it. It's important. So I'm in the Beis Medrash one day, and this guy comes in and he's selling, I don't remember, it was Megillas or Menoiras, one of those things, raffle ticket. So I buy a raffle ticket. I say, how many raffle tickets are you selling? He says, 500, 1,000. I say, Shloimi, I want you to call your father-in-law. He may be your father-in-law one day, in case this some strange reason all these things don't happen. And I want you to tell him not to buy you a Megillah or a Menorah, whatever it was, because you're going to win this ticket. He says to me, first of all, that's rude. How do I know he plans on buying you? Well, you suggested, Second of all, he says, how do I, what are the chances of me buying it? It's 1 out of 500. Aha! So you don't really believe you're going to win it because it's 1 out of 500, right? Right. But a flat tire and this, yes. So I think, there I go, without any formal therapy education. There, I solved the problem. Shlomi was okay for a good week. And one day his father calls me, he says, Shlomi got the call, come to the house now. I said, uh-oh. The caller called to drop the shidduch. And I run over to the house. Shlomi's shaking. She says, I just got a call. I said, from whom? He goes, from the organization. I won the Megillah! And he's going out of his mind. What does this teach me? It says, teaches me, don't ask me advice. That's what it teaches you. So we sat down, as the Shlomi's really going, now he's going bananas. So we sat down by the Mishgiach Sozayin Gesund, and I don't know why, I was privy to sit inside. He said, Shlomi, what's bothering you? He starts saying out the flat tire. One more time, flat tire, I'm going to go out of my mind. So Mishgiach says to him, could be you're going to have a flat tire. What? Whose side are you on? He says, what if there's a storm? Could be it'll be a storm. What if I'm sick? It could be. And everything he says is, it could happen. Hello? Mishgiach, hello? Like, we're trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, not take them apart. He says, Shlomi, your problem is, there's really one question. Does the Rabbi Shem want your chuppah to be on time or not? Either he does or he doesn't. Either it's Besher, it should be on time or not. That's the one question. If the Rabbi Shem wants it to be on time, quoted the Divrei Chaim, who said everything in this Bria is going to support that chuppah being exactly the second that it's supposed to be. If it is not supposed to be on time, then it doesn't make a difference where it's going to come from. It won't be on time. So your problem is you're negotiating with meteorologists and with mechanics and with doctors and with, he says, the list will never end. There's one issue. Deal with the Rabbi Shalom. So Shlomi says, so the Mishgiach says, maybe my chuppah won't be on time. Why should I go buy a new bekasha for the chuppah? Only Shlomi. So Mishgiach says, you're not buying a new bekasha for the chuppah. I'm not? No. You're buying it because you have a mitzvah of emunah and betachon. But maybe you have a mitzvah of emunah and betachon, and now's the day to buy the chuppah. Your parents are coming with you. That's kibbut av. They're happy to buying a bekasha. Why should I rent an apartment? Maybe there won't be a chuppah. You're right. You're renting an apartment because you have a mitzvah to prepare for your wedding. But we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. And Shlomi took that to heart. And all I can tell you, Shlomi's chuppah, Baruch Hashem, was on time, and his children's chuppah was on time. But I never forgot that lesson. We live in a world where we think we can press a couple of buttons and Google our way through life and control everything and have answers to everything. And guess what? There are no answers to everything. And there are things that happen that rattle our cage. We have to say, Rabbi Shalom, ultimately my life is in your hands. When we understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has delays planned for us, because that's the nature of life, that's how we get to be a Rav, through the bathhouse situation, then we're not spoiled and we can deal with life better. Deal with it a very, very different way. Somebody said he saw an advertisement. It said a free vacation, 3 days and 2 nights in sunny Florida. Also came in a credit card thing. So he called up. He asked, when are the 3 days? January 20th, February 20th, and March 20th. The 3 nights, April 20th, May 20th, and June 20th. That's if you expect in life the 3 days will come in a row. You're always disappointed. But if you say, I have a good night, I have a good night. If I have a good day, I have a good day. And the Rebbeinu Shalom knows exactly where I'm supposed to be, then life is very, very different. There's that famous story. There's a man who came to in Yerushalayim. They prepared for this wedding. The poor people. Then a baby dropped a cup of milk into the pot of chicken. There was no shishim against the chicken. You have to have 60 times the amount to neutralize it. So Shmuel Salant called in what's called the milchig. The milchig is the guy that provides milk. He says, I won't tell anyone. Tell me the truth. How much water do you put into the milk? Rabbi, me, how much water do you put into the milk? 50-50. Tell him the chicken is okay. There's shishim against the... So I heard this story from Rav Melech Bidem Zalzangesent. There was a Yid in Yerushalayim, he was called the Milchiger. That's what they called the guy that sold milk. That didn't mean he had a big company in a warehouse. It meant he drove on a bicycle and he had like these 2 tin cans of milk. So this was a man, he was a big tzaddik. He had this hat that was like, he was a Shuradik Talmud Chacham. They say Rabbi Aaron Kotler, Rabbi came to talk to him and learning. And he had this hat that was always like dripping and it had like this sour cream for years on it. And everybody like stood away from him. So once they went, they bought him a new hat. And they saw him take the new hat and he toivels it. What are you doing? You're kashering, get a sour cream? It turned out later, al-sneas, he didn't want the ladies to come too close when they buy the milk, so he arranged it. Okay, that's a different level of... So he once came to, they say that he once came to one of the Lelevi Rebbes, he said, no one's buying my milk. They say, because the kids choke on it. I don't know what's wrong, what's my whole parnassa? So the Rebbe understood what the problem was. Everyone else was putting water in their milk. His was pure milk, the kids weren't used to it. So he said, put in a little bit water. He said, a little bit water, how could I do that? He said, it's an accepted thing, and just put it in. So he said to him, when something is too perfect, it's not for this world. He said, Nadav and Avihu had a perfect ruchniistic connection to Hashem. Perfect. Ultimate amunah. They saw, Reb Tzaddik says also, they saw the Or Haganis. It doesn't work. It's not what this world is all about. Not what this world is all about. Schwab says a Davar Pella. Take a look in the Chumash. It says, Hu Hashadibar Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe Rabbeinu is consoling Aaron HaKoyin. This is what Hashem said. Hu Hashadibar Hashem Leimer B'Kroi V'Yakadesh. There had to be two people that would lose their lives in the Beis HaMikdash. Take a look in the Chumash. Kapitel Yud Pasuk Gimel. Hu Hashadibar Hashem. There is a vertical line. It's usually like a comma. And then it says afterwards, Leimer B'Kroi V'Yakadesh. It should be Hu Hashem Leimer. Hu Hashadibar Hashem Leimer. This is what Hashem said. That B'Kroi V'Yakadesh. What's the Hu Hashadibar Hashem? Stop. Leimer B'Kroi V'Yakadesh. So the answer is that Aaron HaKoyin is crying, and the Ramban says he was crying, and suddenly he stops crying. And what was his nechama? Moshe Rabbeinu said, I want to tell you something, the world is not hefker, okay? Hu Hashadibar Hashem. This is what Hashem... Before Moshe Rabbeinu even said, Leimer, this is what Hashem said. Let me tell you the reason why it had to happen. Aaron said, stop. Stop. You're going to tell me the reason why they died, that's not going to be a nechama. My nechama is going to be Hu Hashadibar Hashem. That's what Hashem said. If that's what Hashem said, so let it be. That's my nechama. If we understand that the ups and the downs and the struggles, the frightening struggles and the little struggles, the seemingly impossible situations, as Hu Hashadibar Hashem, there is nechama. If I can allow me to repeat a story that I said the Shabbos HaGadol just real quickly, because it's the yard side of the Sons of Rav. Man had 6 daughters. He came to the Sons of Rav. He said, Rebbe ben Zachar! You know, so the Rebbe said, I promise you this year you're going to have a male child. He was so excited that on his way home, he stopped off in City Hall and gave him the birth certificate for his... He didn't even tell his wife yet about the Haftach. He said, I'm going to have a son. His name is Avram Yosef, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. And they were all excited. He registered the kid, and then he came home and told his wife there's a Haftacha. And that year, they were waiting a Simcha. Mazel Tov! And Taka, he had a baby girl. So, a baby girl. And he'd go to the Rebbe and say, something went wrong. He must have mixed up the fiddle with someone else. You know, wires got exchanged. You're supposed to have the boy. The Rebbe's promise is a promise. Hello, but he said it ben Zachar. Next year, Bas Tchila Simcha Yafel Labanim, that was probably Pshat. The next year, Baruch Hashem, he waits a Simcha. Mazel Tov, another baby girl. Next year, another baby girl. Next year, another baby girl. 6 years in a row, another baby girl. Okay? It's nice to have 12 girls. Go back to the Rebbe. Say this is like, you know, the copy machine. You press the wrong button, you know, by mistake you press duplicate. Like, okay, that's something's wrong. The Rebbe promised to Ben Zachar. This is it. I mean, this is it. Next year, baby boy. Baby number 13 is a boy. 11 years later, little Avram Yosef was 11 years old, and boom, the Tsar swoops and they start looking for all the people that are trying to get out of the draft. You have to realize the Russian army, when the Jew was taken, the question was whether he'll be stabbed from the front or stabbed from the back. Which one comes first? So they're looking for all the Nebuch Bachrim that are hiding, and they're dragging them out, and they didn't run to as it worked in Tsarist Russia, they ran to the other general and offered him some goodies. And he said, listen, I got to find, for me to get everyone off, I got to find a reason. I got to find they're doing something wrong. So if I can find it. So he comes, and he sees that they're schlepping this 11-year-old kid. He said, what are you doing? He says, I'm drafting him. What do you mean you're drafting him? He's a kid. Oh, no, we have the papers. We looked up in City Hall. He is 18 years old. They said, he's an 11-year-old kid. What are you talking about? And they went, and they not only released him, but they wound up releasing everyone else that's around and around. Now, he could have gone back to the Sons of Rav and said, you promised a boy! This is not what I expected! Maybe the Sons of Rav would have said, okay, you'll have your boy. But the whole time would have not had their Yeshua. Matitzak alai. Sometimes we think Hashem promises us, it's not happening the way we want. And we can scream and demand, and we may even get it. But Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'yisrael. teach the Bnei Yisrael to move on. Because if you move on, then you'll see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands the Havtacha far better than ever in our life we can possibly imagine.